What's up, Trojan fans? Welcome into the LA Sports Brotherhood. It's me, Ryan, here with my brother Matthew, and we have had a run of good news for SC for the first time in what feels like a little bit. After the season ended, especially even like people like us, like just like talking about SC, nothing has felt positive. Our last kind of recap season overlook videos didn't really feel positive because the season wasn't positive, but they've worked really hard to kind of change that narrative, change the momentum a bit, and of course, you can't do everything in an off season, but they really are putting in a lot of work, Matt. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, right now it seems like they're taking all the steps in the right direction to get where they need to go. It's a really, really big deal to lose momentum, and USC clearly lost momentum. Urban Meyer talked a little bit about it, and when a program loses momentum, especially after year three, it's really, really hard to get it back. But what you got to do is just get talent, and they started to do that with two, I mean, massive defense tackles, two nose tackles, Keyshawn Silver out of Kentucky and Jamal Jarrett out of Georgia. And those are big time gets, and all credit in the world goes to Coach Henny. He is really not the lone bright spot, but he's a bright, really the whole defensive staff has been a bright spot of where this program is right now. And it sounds crazy, year four of Lincoln Riley, where I would plant my flag and feel more confident about a certain unit, a certain side of the ball going into this year, it would be the defense side of the ball because when you look at it, D'Anton Lynn, Coach Henny, Belk, all those guys, like I said, great staff. He managed to put together a pretty average defense with, I mean, the talent wasn't great. It
No.
really was not great, and they kept us in games. The defense that we always talked about, the imaginary defense of if we could just have an average defense with this offense, we'll make the playoffs. Well, Lynn produced that with a severe lack of talent,
Yeah.
and not to mention our two of our best players being hurt, which leads to the second string of good news. First is obviously, like I said, the two defense tackles, but then three of our best players in the entire roster decided to come back. Emmanuel Pregnon, our best offensive guard, coming back. That's huge news. And then Kamari Ramsey comes back safety, and then these weren't shockers, but getting Gentry and Lucas back, who missed a big portion of the season, you can see the roster come together a little bit, and I can finally kind of vision like a pretty good USC football team because, like I said, the defense staff is amazing. I trust them to have a good scheme. They just need the talent, and so if you can hang your hat on the defensive line, potentially the offensive line, I mean, you got three SEC dudes there. You got Anthony Lucas, great against the run. You got two big time nose tackles, and then you have two pass rushers who maybe you got to tap into one of them with Braden Shelby and Cameron Fountain.
Yeah.
Gentry's the playmaker. Kamari Ramsey, DJ Harvey came in. I think what this USC football team has to be is a great defensive team that runs the ball a lot, and they just got a lot of pieces in order to do that with the defensive tackles with their best offensive line coming back. And so it's with Branch leaving, with Deuce leaving, I don't mind it because this was the big area of need, which is the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. I it is an interesting parallel. It's the difference between the way the offensive personnel has changed and the defensive personnel has remained the same is so crazy. Like from Lincoln Riley program, defense feels so consistent. The biggest names all stayed. Kamar Ramsey's staying. I didn't like. He's not the type of combine player that would like really pop off and get into the high rounds, like for day one draft. But he absolutely is an NFL caliber player. So for him to pass up that type of payday, come back, remain the captain of the team, he was by far the best player we had all year on defense. Honestly, arguably overall, just him and Woody Marks. But those are like really, really big gets, I guess, even though it's like keeping him here. And it just you said it in a way I really agree. It feels so stable. Like I trust that the product on the field is going to be a base level of competent. And as we get these player archetypes, like you mentioned, the two nose tackles, a size that we have not had in a very long time. The production is down, and of course, they're in interior linemen. You're not gonna have really high stats. I need to actually watch like their games. Like I've heard people talk about it. I've heard people I trust, like with analysis and stuff, talk about that the additions are going to be positive. Which of course you just, even if they weren't going to provide much, just having a guy like that, which you never did not even have access to before, is huge. But you, a lot of the pass rush inability comes from not having an interior defensive line that could push and actually, like, if a quarterback is getting rushed from the outside and all they have to do is take one step up because there's no interior pressure, then having a good edge doesn't really matter. And the SC did not have a good edge. They had competent guys against the run. Anthony Lucas, like you mentioned, really took a step up against the run. Like, he was actively a good player there, just couldn't get a lot of pass rush. So we'll see the development there. There's still another transfer window, and I guess it's not over yet. But it is genuinely great developments. Love to see efforts being made. Like when we were talking about committing to one way or the other, these types of moves at least signify that they're still very serious about the product on the field. Everything else can be everything else. And we weren't really questioning that, but it's nice to see immediately as soon as they need, there's guys available to get and they get them.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say about like the Lincoln Riley era is he has shown that he will change like identity. I mean, think about where we were 2 years ago. I mean, not that much we're better now, but no one thought he could put together a defensive staff like that and get a recruiter like Henny. So I mean, I trust that he understands there's a problem and he'll try to address it. It's just a question of will he be successful. But I mean, what these additions kind of do is it feels like you said stable. I think stable is the right word. Where you're like now you're just looking at a few spots where you just kind of got to plug in. You need another safety for sure. Need another linebacker. If a star QB comes out there, maybe a receiver, that need a center. Like there's a certain amount of positions. It's not like you need everything. You got to plug in starter level guys in these positions, and you have a chance at a good team. Not to mention, schedule next year is fairly easy. So I trust Coach Henny. I trust Coach Lynn. I trust Lincoln still when it comes to evaluating offensive talent. So it's this season genuinely it's just going to come down to how many transfers we get because we know there's not going to be young guys that take a huge step because from this past class there's not many 5-star guys like that. So it's just going to be how many successful starter level transfers can we get? And right now we're doing a pretty nice job, and I'm pleased with that. Um,
Yeah.
Coming up this Friday, December 27th, we got to mention it. Las Vegas Bowl playing Texas A&M. Little interesting there with Decorian Moore. Excuse me, not Decorian Moore. He's the Oregon commit. With Myers flipping over there, Longstreet flipping over here.
Mm.
It's basically the Longstreet Bowl. We'll see what happens. I think, I honestly, last year the Holiday Bowl was a ton of momentum. I think it can be kind of similar now. If you look at like the game day set, what they're saying is like, yeah, everyone is treating USC as like, oh, there's too much going on over there. Too much going on over there. What are they going to do? If Makai Lemon, DJ Jordan, Jacoby Lane, Maeva, any of these guys have a big game, the bowl season has turned into like almost a spring game to get momentum in the next season. So
Yeah.
let's get momentum. That's really kind of my take on it. We got some young guys. Love to see Tompkins get some run. Let's have our young guys make some plays, and that's really all I can do. It's gonna be a fun game. We lose, we're not gonna be throwing stuff, just super mad. Let's see what we got for next season, and that's that.
Yeah. I'd love to see, like, speaking to specific things we want to look for, because we're going to use this as kind of our preview. Because realistically, like you said, not a bunch to say. Texas A&M, I don't know how much you've been keeping up, Matt. I don't know if that feels like a team that's going to lose half of its roster to the transfer portal. Has that really happened? I haven't been keeping up. If you've seen anything,
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. It feels like every offseason they kind of lose
yeah,
most of the time.
yeah. But like, regardless, I'm not putting too much stock. Even I think even before we started making these vids, you guys meaning my brothers and my dad, were kind of joking around with me about how little stock I was putting into the Holiday Bowl win. It's gonna be the same thing this year for me. The result's not really gonna matter at all. And I promise, even if they lose, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, see, I told." Like, genuinely, whatever. It's hopefully it's a fun game to watch. Specifically, I'm looking for the offense around Mayava. You have 3 full weeks ish, 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know the exact time. I don't want them to play vanilla like, oh, well, we gotta hide what we want. I want them to show what an offense would look like if you have time to plan a scheme around the quarterback. And if it is different, I think that will be the biggest signifier of positive change going into next year. Where I feel, unless a very surprise transfer happens, like maybe the quarterback from SMU, which isn't rumored at all, but like a guy like that that would immediately be coming as a starter. Mayava, you're going in. Same thing with excuse me, that we had with Miller. Holiday Bowl, we knew 100% starter going into the spring. Mayava right now basically locked in as a starter going into spring. Show me what the offense will look like with that skill set. And if it is the same, I'm not going to overreact, but I'm going to be very disappointed. And if it's changed, like if it fits his skills more, I think that's going to be a very legitimately big step for momentum going into the future. That's what I'm really looking for the most.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think those are Mayav is the biggest factor in this game. 100%. I mean, he's the guy we're all going to be watching.
Yeah.
And other than Mayava, and he fits this role too. I think you look at guys who, if the season 2025 season started tomorrow, will be starting. So I maybe a guy like Desmond Stevens because EMA's gone, Cobb's gone. Like guys who right now are plugging in for the starters that'll be entering the draft because you cannot control who enters the transfer portal. You were talking about the Holiday Bowl, thinking there is no way in hell that Mason Murphy's going to be starting. He ended up starting because you
Yeah.
couldn't really land the transfer. So it is like you said, the result doesn't matter. Like the bowl season is totally different now. Who cares? Are we still talking about the Holiday Bowl? Like that meant nothing. But the biggest thing is the guys who may have to start, you want to see those reps, see how they perform. And in this case, the most important one is for sure Jane Mayava.
Yeah.
And I think if he can build like because right now the fan base is kind of like rallying around like Deuce and excuse me not Deuce Lane and Makai, those are guys, those are Trojans, they're gonna stay here. Like we didn't want Branch, we didn't want Deuce. So I mean, if those three guys can collectively have a big game, I have a Deuce and Lane, it'll be that same hype train that started last year with Miller Moss, which, again, it may not mean nothing, but it'd be fun.
Yeah, 100%. Like again, it's not gonna USC's too storied of a program to look fondly at Las Vegas Bowl wins. But I guarantee you, if SC went 9-3 or were like sniffing the playoffs or in a big bowl this year, everyone would be talking about how the Holiday Bowl started the momentum. But didn't go the way you wanted to. Let's make the Las Vegas Bowl on Friday the bowl that starts the momentum going into next year, and let's write it up. Either way, it should be fun to watch. I'm hoping it's going to be fun to watch. We'll be back with a recap. There's going to be a lot more transfer stuff going on too. So, as always, thanks for checking in with us. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and subscribe if you like. Fight on.